This is JMD Mateus, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 167, and you are with your High Priest of Khonshu Rey. Hello, hello. And we are back to our comic book reviews and discussions. And tonight, due to a waning crescent up in the sky, we are going to head into a LUNAR-PICK classic run review. So we'll be doing a discussion of Moon Knight Volume 1, Issue 16. Kind of like a double hit. We've got the main story, Shadows of the Moon, followed by Seekers of Stone. Now, I am talking in plural, and I sometimes do that when I am by myself and a little bit crazy, but I am not tonight, to this morning, whatever. I am joined by a special guest co-host. He has been on the show before, a great musician, member of Deleta, the fantastic music that you've heard at the beginning, that is theirs. It's Loony, Knol Loony Toonz Tate. Welcome, Knol.
Hi, Ray. How are you doing? Or just Loony. You could keep it that way.
Just Loony. I like Toonz. Toonz with a Z or a Z. I'm not sure. How do they say it in the US? Z? Z? Z.
We say Z, but I like to say Z.
Z. Z's dead. Loony Toonz. And I've seen here, I just misspelt it on the prompt sheet. Loony Toonz. Call you the Fonz. Anyway, thank you, Knol. Thank you so much for joining. This is going to be cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we've had you a couple of times before. I think mostly doing classic run or classic comics, which is pretty cool. Is the way you like it, Knol?
It seems to be our thing. That is my favorite run, Volume 1. So that was a little rhyme for you.
But yeah, so this will be good. This will be a departure, actually. I believe it's the first time it's a non-Doug Moench, Bill Sienkiewicz issue. So interesting. You'll gather our thoughts, Loonies, as we crack into it. But anyway, just to kick off, Knol, I usually say a huge thank you to the Patronies, a big thank you to them. Thanks for showing your support towards the show. Every little bit helps, even listening. It's great to be able to mix it in amongst fellow Moon Knight fans. But a big thank you to Justin, Dustin, Derek, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Russell, and Anthony. Thank you so much, guys, for throwing in and weighing in. And please, just drop us a line whenever. It's really good. Very grateful, and love to be able to return the favor in some way. So a huge thank you to all of them. A little thing as well. I sent a message. That monthly ITK digest, it is coming out very soon. I've nearly finished it. It's now becoming like I wanted to do it at the beginning of the month, but it's now more kind of like from mid-month to mid-month, only because I'm a lazy bugger, but it will be coming out soon, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Also, big sponsors, Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics from Illinois, the superhero superstore. Now, Knol, before we go into any intricacies of this coming issue, just a little bit of a catch-up, a yarn. What's been doing? Any good recommendations for reads or any watches? Any music?
Is there anything? Well, it's I guess almost Halloween time. So I was rereading I guess it started as a comic, but now it's a graphic novel by Charles Burns called Black Hole.
Okay.
Have you heard of this book?
No.
Do you know who Charles Burns is?
Is he the brother of Monty Burns?
Sure. No, he's a alternative comic book artist, cartoonist from, I think he's originally from the Seattle, Washington area. And he did a book a while back. I probably started, I think, in the early 90s. It was a comic called Black Hole about some teens in the Washington suburbs or the Seattle suburbs who all start to mutate.
Oh.
And it's really bizarre and kind of horrific. It's pretty great for a Halloween book. A black and white graphic novel.
Body
and
horror?
Yeah, and kind of psychological, like kind of trippy, weird. But I started to reread that for the season. It's hard to get through. I mean, it's not the most disgusting book I've ever seen, but it is really weird and pretty disturbing. So wow. I would recommend that. I don't know. I haven't been watching too much regular TV or movies. I caught that new Charlie Kaufman movie that's on Netflix. What's it called? It's called I've already forgotten the name. I think I'm going to end things, or I think we should end things, or something like that.
Okay.
Charlie Kaufman was he wrote Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I've seen that.
Yeah, and what's the other one that he did with being John Malkovich?
Oh, wow, okay.
Right, so he's
a particular style. Yeah.
Very weird kind of stuff in this film. I don't really know what to think of the movie, actually.
How did you get towards it? Like, how did you?
We were just sitting around and saw, and I was like, "Oh, Charlie Kaufman, this should be fun and weird." And it turned out just to be kind of sad and weird instead, and kind of didn't make a lot of sense. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll catch it again. But he'd been working on it for a long time, and I think he'd been working on it for Netflix. I don't think it was supposed to be a release for the theaters, but regardless, it went to streaming, and I don't know. I don't think I can recommend it, actually.
You don't really know what to make of it, I guess.
Like I said, I'm really a pretty big fan of sort of obtuse or strange things, but this one was just kind of like, wait, what? What's
okay?
This
do you think you'd
weird
go
for the sake of it? Maybe someday. Yeah.
Yeah, to maybe there are some hidden layers under there or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's just something I didn't get. Yeah, I don't know. But
how about any tunes with a Z?
I haven't been listening to any new music at all. Just old stuff. Yeah, just
any
the
Eddie Van Halen.
I couldn't bring myself to do it after he died. I was a big fan when I'm of the age where I was, to give it away, I was 10 years old when 1984 came out. Mm-hmm. And of course, that was a big hit, that record. So, but I couldn't. I don't know. I've never been a fan of the kind of what do we call it here? Kind of butt metal stuff.
Fair enough. I guess it's a particular kind of genre. But a big name. I mean, not to say that I've been listening to much of his stuff as well.
I respect Van Halen a lot, and I do. I mean, that record is great, and they're a good band, and I don't know. I was like, that's very sad. I was more sad that he was just, he's had a pretty tough life, I would say. He's had a lot of things. Didn't he have a stroke or something a while back? And
I'm sure he's not that old. And I mean, he's not that old. He's like 76 or something, or
I don't even think he was quite that old.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe in his 60s. I don't know. But
okay. I just pulled that figure out of nowhere. But it's He seemed. I remember when it was on the news. He just they said all the details, and he seemed to be not that old. So it's pretty sad. But it just. Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't know, what can you say? I was just about to say, like, I didn't want to just say it's yet another thing in 2020. I don't want to lessen it by saying that, but it has been a big year, So
well, we're getting of the age where it's like a lot of the people that we kind of grew up with are dying. I think starting Prince and David Bowie and all these people over the past few years. Have been just kicking the bucket, and it's pretty soon where I think a lot more of the people that, I'm sure, like, some of the members of like Black Flag or some of the punk bands I grew up with are going to be kicking it pretty soon, and it's gonna be sad. I mean, they're only maybe 10 years older than us, but it won't be long.
I know. Jesus, sounds really ominous, but yeah, you're right. I mean, time marches on. Look, I can't say I've been listening to much. I mean, listening to a lot of podcasts. Just today, yeah. I mean, well, just today though, I thought I'd just give a listen to some of the scores of some of the MCU films. I just got reacquainted with the Thor soundtrack by Patrick Doyle, a very well-established composer. Really nice, sweeping. Oh, I've just forgotten how much I love that kind of soundtrack. It's just the score, like the background, just like sweeping, operatic kind of, regal kind of music. So no, I was just loving that. Podcasts, just the usual, basically. But Happiness in Darkness, I want to give that a shout out because they're the superhero movie podcast, hosted by DJ Nick. So I was listening to their review of Thor, the first film, 2011, I'm going to say. And that's always good. It's always fun. It's a very consistent, a very insightful show. So a big shout out to DJ Nick from Happiness in Darkness.
What do you do while you're listening to soundtracks? Do you just kind of put them on and do work, or? Yeah,
generally work, because I guess no vocals and stuff. I can still concentrate. Like it's a bit harder when you. Yeah.
Can you read while you're listening to things like soundtracks? Okay.
Yeah. Unless it's I get really invested, but I can kind of, screen myself off and kind of put it in the background in my head while I think. But 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 I can also actively listen as well. But yeah, it's a little harder with vocals. I do that at work. I mean, you know me at work, Knol. I was texting you non-stop because
you don't do anything while you're there.
Exactly. It's like, get back to work. All right. Also, I guess reading-wise, there's a lot of reading that I do because I love listening to there's other podcasts that review certain things. So I reread Kraven's Last Hunt, which I really enjoyed, and the lead-up issues to that. So it was actually the Peter Parker MJ wedding, which was I've never read that issue, but that's a really awesome annual. Yeah, really fun annual.
I have that in a book. I have that in a book of. There's a trade that they did of just all the famous Marvel weddings.
Okay.
It has the Fantastic Four wedding in there. It has MJ and Peter's wedding. It has the Cyclops and Jean Grey wedding, and a couple other really funny ones.
I mean, they sound like the big ones.
The Spider-Man wedding is actually one of my favorites. It's so funny.
It is. It's just so unconventional.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, they have huge doubts. They're running late. MJ's out partying to the wee hours of the morning. She's got having a... Yeah, it's really good.
With some guy named Bruce. And people they thought that maybe that was supposed to be Bruce Willis because he was kind of a playboy back in those days.
Okay. I thought it was a bit of a joke on the Distinguished Competition.
It could have been, but it was really funny. And just that one scene where they are getting married and he's like, I pronounce you man and wife or whatever. And he's having the dream and all his villains are in the...
Yes. Yeah, it gets all a bit warped. Yeah.
And the Green Goblin is there just completely straight-faced and says, die. It's so funny.
No, that is one of my favorite. I think, obviously with Kraven's Last Hunt, which I always seem to enjoy more and more when I read it, because when I first read it, I thought it was like not that good. I thought it was just, it's like this was a very different way of writing. I know. It's a different way of writing. He's got a particular style, but every time I read it, for serious, every time I read it seriously, I enjoy it more. Not only because, maybe discover new things, but it's just like, it's so deliciously kind of ambiguous about Kraven and his motives and his sense of honor. Nothing is really well defined, but you get a sense of what he's trying to achieve. And it's really, it's really cool. So that and the wedding, I think, is really interesting. And the Epic has other stuff like the Hobgoblin revealed. No spoilers. There are like Ned. It's Ned, which was a big thing at the time. And then there's also Alistair Smythe.
I think that was an editorial thing. I can't remember.
It was a huge, crazy thing with
in the office. They wanted one thing, and
yes, it was going to be. I mean, there was so many red herrings as to who the Hobgoblin would be, and it was going to be all these other people. I can't even remember who they were now. Maybe even Richard Fisk, who was the Rose. Ned Leeds was going to be the Rose. It was all twisted and turned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a whole thing behind it, which was very interesting to learn. Anyway, also, and just reading, I'm starting the Silver Surfer epic. So from the very first appearance.
Was that where that epic starts?
Yeah, it's on volume 1. It's actually it doubles up with some of the Fantastic Four issues that they.
Okay. I remember looking at it because I was trying to. I have the Essentials, the black and white.
Yep.
That has all that stuff. Because it's really hard to find. The early. Is it Buscema and Lee who wrote the solo comics?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, the one I'm reading at the moment, it's not even his comic yet. It's Fantastic Four issues.
Right.
Yeah.
It starts with the coming of Galactus.
Yes. Yeah, and he looks really weird. And the Watcher looks even weirder. I don't know if you remember it. He looks.
Jack Kirby.
Know. Yeah, I don't know how you say it. He looks. His head's big, but everything else is big. It's something very different to what you're used to with the Watcher these days. That's all. But anyway, so it's a lot of fun reading. And movies-wise, a little plug, because I jumped on the Capes and Lunatics to talk about Ghostbusters, so I watched Ghostbusters again.
Yes.
Man, it's funny. Like, of course, there's so many outdated things in it that you just cringe at. But you put all of that kind of aside, because it was 1984.
Exactly.
But it's just really funny. It's a really funny film. And I was reminded of how funny Bill Murray is. I've always been a fan of his, but sometimes you just got to watch his movie again to see just his comic timing, his sarcasm, all that sort of stuff. His improv.
I think the hidden gem for that movie is Harold Ramis. I think he's the funniest.
He's good as well.
It really makes the movie for me. It's so great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sounds like we've both been a little busy. Did you know also, Noel, the online? I forget what it's called. Something about Metaverse. It's the New York Comic Con. I don't have much information, but that was out. October 8th to the 11th. Yeah. Yeah,
I didn't even know that they were still going to try to do some sort of virtual.
Yep.
Thing or something.
I stumbled onto it, but
really, I just saw that I think I saw on Twitter maybe that some of the more like the comic critics were start doing their own sort of panels and stuff, but I didn't know. I heard a little bit about some things that maybe John Suntrist from the Word Balloon podcast was going to maybe do. I don't know. I had a hard time keeping up. It was my birthday weekend, so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to
glug glug, huh?
A lot of coffee and water.
Coffee and water. True. And look, if you would have blinked and missed it. It's just one of those things. I ended up seeing a lot of it advertised because I stumbled onto it, and you know how Google or whatever tracks what you've clicked onto. So I learned more of it from the spam that I got afterwards than the actual event. Stuff like the Smallville cast was on it. Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, all the Taz Batman series and stuff. That was all on there. But I largely missed. I don't know what was announced. It doesn't seem like anything huge was announced. Otherwise, we would have gotten it on Twitter, and would have picked it up then. So. If I'm wrong, Loonies, just please, if I've missed out somehow the Moon Knight casting, or if I've missed the first episode of Moon Knight, please let me know, because I'd hate to miss out on that sort of thing. Anyway, let's head on to news, Knol, before we just crack into this issue. A couple of small things, really. I've got only a couple of things here. Again, a lot of rubbish on the internet. Just kind of
It's all the internet it is.
Exactly.
It's just a big bowl of piss.
Exactly. Me with an apron and a rubber gloves, just trying to sift through the scum. And anyway, I thought I'd pick one or two of them, just to fill the void.
Chunks in the piss.
A couple of chunks here. One is, again, there's this thing of One Haunting of Bly Manor. I think it's on Netflix. Star has their sights on playing Marvel's Moon Knight. I think that is Oliver Jackson Cowan, if I'm not mistaken.
I was just going to say, is that the Invisible Man, right?
Invisible Man. I've not seen anything of his. No, you neither? Neither?
No, but I've actually watched that one interview, I think, where
me too.
For the press for Invisible Man, when someone was like, they want you to play Moon Knight, and he was like, who's that? Sounds great, I'll do it, whatever, pay me.
I think he first said, what's a Moon Knight? But I think now he's...
I've heard he's a really good actor, and he looks like a Mark Spector to me, so sure, sounds great. And he's younger, I know that supposed casting call, people take all these things like they actually are something.
Yeah.
Well, you got a bat in there? That they're true, but just like the thing with Frenchies saying a kind of a comic relief thing, that doesn't mean that's good. People have to remember that these are just any hints of little news that we're grabbing, but he's on Cohen's on the younger side, which I like. I prefer somebody myself a little bit younger so they could play Moon Knight for a long time and not have to rely all on a stunt person to do everything.
But I think he's
it'd be great.
Old. Yeah, I think he's old enough though still to pull off that I've been there and done that kind of life as a merc. So I think that's what a lot of people were kind of edging for with the older Mark, that they want someone that actually has been grizzled and hardened and has kind of lived life.
But when you have got the history that Mark has, it wouldn't have to be. No. You could be 30 years old and already be in the military, the CIA, be a mercenary for a long time. So
I mean, let's just say he would be a little too young for me if he was in his early 20s, and I'm assuming Oliver Jackson Cohen is not. He's in his
30-ish.
Probably 30, the sweet spot, about the 30 age. So so anyway, that popped up again. Make of it what you will. And this other one, which is has a little bit more substance, and actually got reminded of this, Knol. A preview for the last part of the Age of Khonshu in Avengers 37 is out. So I'll put that out. A preview page is out on our Facebook group and page. Have a look if you want to. If you don't. I'd never look at these things. But the last part of it, Knol, this should be good to wrap up this 5-parter. Just briefly, what are your thoughts on what seems to be the whole arc now? I mean, without having read the last part, of course.
I haven't read any of it.
Excellent, fantastic.
I've been listening to the show, so I know I've been catching up what's going on because I don't really care about spoilers, especially for something like this that just seems to be it's just pie in the sky. It's gonna
that's it.
It looks fun. I've looked at some of the art. The art looks fantastic, but
that's cool.
I'm not. I really, really do like Jason Aaron as a comic book writer. But I like it when his things are a little bit more sort of contained. So I knew I'd heard early on his Avengers was kind of whatever right away. It's good and fun sounding stuff, but nothing too, it's not his Doctor Strange run, which I think was fantastic. Or or obviously a lot of other things he's written that were really great.
I think
I'll wait for the trade.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting the trade myself. It's only 5 issues, so it's going to be in one of those slim trades, and there you go, Bob's your uncle. That's your thing right there. I haven't been big thing. I haven't been collecting the floppies of it. And of course, there's nothing wrong with if you want to get every appearance of Moon Knight. I think I know Anthony from Capes on the Couch, a big Moon Knight fan. I think he's collecting the floppies to complete his set, which is great. I don't know. I started reading. I was considering too, but I'm not too jazzed about the story, so I think I can let this one slip. In a trade, that's good enough for me.
Right, and you could pick up the floppies in a quarter bin pretty soon anyway. That's probably what, after getting the trade, I'll do that in like a year or two that no one's going to care. You can pick up all modern Avengers stuff for pretty cheap. So
yeah, exactly.
So I like to get all the floppies too, but I'm not going to spend any coin on
that's
really
that's
doing
fair.
it right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, what is it? $5 an issue right now? I'm not going to spend 30
Yeah,
$30
that is
getting 5 issues of Avengers.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, as you say, it is a fun issue. Let us not dissuade you, loonies, if you haven't read it. Read it for yourself. Let us know what you think. And so that comes out. Well, basically, I think when this podcast comes out, it would have just been released. So what's actually happening, and I'm thinking on the fly here, Knol, was that I've got to do a quick reaction episode to this last issue. So if you're listening to this now, loonies as well, pop your comments in, drop them in. I'll read them out as well, and let's finish off this baby that is the Age of Khonshu, and send it home into the phoenix sky. Should be fun. So yeah. Anyway, those are the last bits of news, Knol. So. I don't know, if you're ready, I think we're ready to get into the thing. We might just drop off to a quick break before we do that. Just freshen up, get yourself another couple of litres of coffee. She's looking empty. So, Loonies will be right back to start our coverage of Shadows of the Moon, Moon Knight Volume 1, Issue 16. Catch you soon.
You belong to the Merry Marvel.
Anyone hear us?
This is Trey Lawson.
And I'm James Hickson.
Anyone can hear this broadcast. We need your help.
We've been kidnapped and imprisoned in a tomb by this creepy old undertaker named Mr. Gravely.
And he's forcing us to review his collection of Marvel horror comics. Stuff like Tomb of Dracula,
Werewolf by Night,
Man-Thing,
Ghost Rider,
and so much more.
Forcing us to record these reviews as a podcast called The Tomb of Ideas.
If you can hear this, please contact our families. Call the authorities. Anyone. Tell them we can be found at...
Now, boys. Let's not give too much away. You can find James and Trey every other Wednesday at the Tomb of Ideas, a Marvel horror podcast, a proud member of the Cinepunks podcast group. See you there, Tomb Believers. The Merry Marvel Marching Society.
Yes, loonies, welcome back. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 167, and you are joined by your High Priest of Khonshu Rey and Knol Loony Toonz Tate, or just Loony, as Knol mentioned at the top of the show. Anyway, we are doing and I've got this wrong on the prompt sheet. Great, I didn't cut that out. We are doing a LUNAR-PICK classic run review. It's Moon Knight Volume 1, Issue 16. We have a couple of stories here, Knol, to keep us happy.
Right. And so let's get into it. The credits for this issue, Shadows of the Moon, which does the moon really cast a shadow? No. Not really. But the writer is not our boy Doug Moench, and the penciler is not our boy Bill Sienkiewicz, which I completely forgot that they took a couple breaks in Volume 1. But the writer is Jack Harris, penciler Denise Cowan.
I don't know.
Does that sound Denise Cowan? French, perhaps? I don't know. The inker are Steve Mitchell and famous Joe Rubinstein and Klaus Janson. Colorist Christine Scheele, letterer Janice Chiang. Editor, of course, is our famous boy Rest in peace, Denny O'Neil. And then there is, of course, a backup in this issue, which I had also forgotten about, and that's Jack Harris again writing. And this is Jimmy James, the man so nice they named him twice, penciling. Inker, Armando Gill, colorist, Christine Scheele, editor, of course, again, Denny O'Neil. And it's floppies digital. You can catch it. I have my floppy right here. Mm-hmm. If you can hear that, that's what. Yes, that's a floppy.
Ads and all.
Mm-hmm. Not many though, because this is a direct market, so it's not as fun. You can get it on digital and Marvel Unlimited, and it's in the Epic collection and the Essentials Volume 2, and it's the Volume 2 of the Epic as well.
Yes, so I'm going to be reading that from the Epic. It's fortuitously called Shadows of the Moon as well. So. Volume 2, check it out, Loonies. Yeah, so interesting as well. I mean, that second story as well, Noel, we'll get into it. This is it's one of the few that I've seen it's a pre-Moon Knight tale. It's before Mark Spector became Moon Knight. So an interesting window into his life, I guess, as a merc, a different sort of merc.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And anyway, so Loonies, for those that haven't listened before, what Noel and I will do, we'll hit you up first with a bare bones. And Noel, I think we can probably do the synopsis. The bare bones, is a synopsis, in case you haven't got the comic and want to get a summary of it. I might just read out them consecutively, Noel, these backup stories, and then we can just discuss and bounce between the stories. Because the second story is pretty short. Yeah. So we'll do a synopsis or a bare bones, followed by just an open discussion of different things, ranging from writing, the artwork, themes, characterizations, and any references to any runs. There were a few kind of parallel threads happening in the first story, and some character development, so it'd be quite interesting to hear your thoughts on that, Noel. And then we'll cap that off with our moon rating. So Noel and I, we both have a choice of whether to use the vanilla rating of the phases of the moon out of 10, or the patented Khonshu's rating system, patent pending. So a very unique system. You'll catch our drift. Anyway, Noel, I guess overall as well, overall impressions. Oh, hey, hang on. No, what am I talking about?
Why don't you read out the story, Ray?
Read out this handwritten bare bones. Okay, so here we go, listeners. This is the bare bones for both stories, Shadows of the Moon and Seekers of Stone.
Kick it with that deleter music.
Yeah. Moon Knight has a close encounter with a terrorist named Sharp on a construction site late at night. Sharp tragically dies in a scuffle with Moon Knight, leaving the White Knight with no answers. Meanwhile, a young boy, Doug, admires the Cape Crusading abilities of Moon Knight after it is featured in the news, much to the chagrin of his father, Detective Stephen Mills. Elsewhere, Alexander Latimer and his second-in-command, Mitchell, plot a scheme to betray their country by taking out the East Coast communications grid with a nuclear device hidden beneath one of the construction sites that Latimer has. Incidentally, it's also the construction site where Sharp met his death. Latimer hires a blacksmith, an ex-con with a past, to replace Sharp and to escort one of his technicians, Mr. Morris, to arm the device and set the wheels in motion. Stephen Mills is killed whilst trying to investigate the death of Sharp, leaving Doug disenchanted and keen to find Moon Knight. Having learned of Latimer's underhanded dealings, Moon Knight encounters Blacksmith and Morris, and a fight ensues. Doug arrives also and is almost distracts Moon Knight to the point of defeat. The nuclear device prematurely detonates before it could be fully armed, allowing Moon Knight to round up his stunned opponents. Doug learns a valuable lesson in following the law, and Moon Knight leaves him to decide what path in life he wishes to pursue. Great ending there. And for Seekers of Stone, we have an early adventure of Mark Spector, mercenary, before he became Moon Knight. Situates him in Stuttgart, accepting a job from a sculptor called Mr. Collins. Spector is to claim an artifact from a Mr. Karg, which Collins hopes will reignite his failing sculpting career. The artifact is Medusa's head, and Collins hopes to turn people to stone and pass them off as artworks. The equally Machiavellian Mr. Karg captures Mark Spector and Collins' daughter, as they both try to steal the head from him. In a desperate move, Spector reflects the evil glare of Medusa back at Mr. Karg as he takes it out of the box, hoping to kill the pair. Spector and Collins' daughter escape and return, a now head of stone, to Mr. Collins. Mark later becomes Moon Knight in years to come, but what becomes of Mr. Collins? There you go, Loonies. Apologies there for the stunted reading. I was having trouble reading my own writing there. So usually type these things out, but last minute, as is always the case. Anyway, Noel, I guess jumping overall, maybe the two issues. What did you think of this issue? Like it being split and it being a non-Doug Moench, Bill Sienkiewicz.
Well, that was the big thing that caught me. In volume 1, you're kind of in a certain headspace reading all of it, and this seemed to kind of at least the main bulk of the issue, the Shadows of the Moon story, seemed to get very I don't know, kind of the corny kind of Marvel of the time, 1982. It's kind of a bipolar story in a way, because there's parts that seem really kind of, right away, the first thing that happens is somebody dies in the story. And it seems very deep, and right away it was like, I read this issue, I don't even know how long ago. It didn't even stick in my memory, and I reread it, and I was like, I don't remember any of this. This is really dramatic, but at the same time, it's got these bits. There's, like in the synopsis, you didn't mention the fact that the kid goes, the only superhero he knows he can get a hold of is the Fantastic Four, so he asks the Thing, and Alicia Masters says, "Come on, Ben, at least you could do is try to get a hold of Moon Knight somehow." Yeah. And so he puts out an APV, and he's like, "Hey, Moon Knight, there's this thing going on," and Frenchie picks up on it, and it's like, "Hey, Mark, there's a call for you to," I don't know, very convenient.
It was very weird, wasn't it?
A plate, yeah, just so they could put the blue-eyed Thing on the cover to hopefully probably sell a couple more books, which was what all guest star appearance were meant to do. But yeah, overall, it's an interesting place. It almost feels, in a weird way, like kind of almost more of a volume 2 story, the short Fist of Khonshu, where it's kind of like, this is fun, and but it's they use the word adventure a couple times in it, it just seems, Moon Knight is like Indiana Jones or something, like what's the guy's name? Not the Wrecker. He looks like the Wrecker from the Wrecking Crew, but the Blacksmith.
The Blacksmith, yeah. I wonder if he was meant to become a Marvel character, or it was, because it's left open, isn't it? And I wonder if young Jack C. Harris had hopes that he'd establish a Marvel character in the universe, i.e. Blacksmith. But he doesn't seem to have that big an appeal. I don't know, I can't speak of back in the day, but this guy with a couple of heated tongs, is that right? What do you call them, clippers or something, that he... Yeah,
I forget, like forceps.
Forceps, sorry. And he trains himself to... he studies Moon Knight. I don't know where he gets his information from while he's in jail. He has just posters of Moon Knight on his cell. And he studies his action moves, apparently. And that is enough. He's almost as good as Taskmaster. And that is enough to, when he actually finds Moon Knight, we see Moon Knight goes, how does this guy know what I'm about to do? It's almost as if he knows my fighting style. But, like, you think about it, and if you get really nitpicky, it's kind of, well, how does Blacksmith get to this level? Sure, in jail, you can pump yourself up with some weights and, be really fit, but you can't really have that battle experience or the combat experience. you know.
Well, and he was able to build weapons in jail, apparently.
Exactly. It's very worrying. I mean, he built some heated forceps.
There's like half a page, 1 page of him building that and escaping and turning on one of his cellmates or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, I thought you were going to help, and it kills the guy. And
yeah, I think in that, when I was reading that, I thought in that small instance, Harris was obviously just trying to show us how driven and selfish Blacksmith is, because he repeats a couple of times as well. Something like along the lines of, I only care about Blacksmith. There's only just Blacksmith. He talks in third person, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I could see an attempt there from Harris to try to create some sort of character, but it's really weird because, actually, I'll go back a step, Noel, because you're mentioning this is kind of like something different from the Moench, and it seems a little out of place. I found actually a few elements in here. He was trying to tie it to kind of the Moench world that he created, in the fact that, I don't know, you've got all these characters like Latimer, and then you've got this detective Stephen Mills, and you even have these incidental characters like Mitchell and Mr. Morris, and like you have a cast of a lot of people that aren't particularly super or anything. So it's very kind of apart from the Thing, the only superhero is Moon Knight, and again he's fighting like just normal people. Blacksmith, excepted, of course.
It seems like Harris had read the run so far, but just decided to. I don't know if this was stuck in a drawer somewhere. Like, I've got a Moon Knight story. Like, hey, Harris, you got something for Moon Knight? Yeah, quick, let me read the Moench's stuff. Okay, I got something. Yeah. But he's, and no disrespect to him. I think he did the best he could do. But it's hard to be. It doesn't really. I know he's trying to keep sort of in the world of, the New York vigilante, but having a nuclear bomb under the subway to
jeez Louise, what's going on there?
Blow up. He not only blow up I think the telecommunications for the East Coast was a side benefit. He said he wanted to destroy New York City.
Yeah,
I just don't get where these motivation. I mean, I know it's 80s comics, but that seems a little. Everything else seems a little bit more grounded. Then when I got to that part, I was like, what the fuck?
Well, I thought maybe that was kind of... actually, I'll put it the other way as well to you, Noel, as well, because Latimer does talk about being in cahoots with a foreign power, and so he's backing them. So he's kind of scratching their back. Like, he's going to take out the grid, and apparently they're going to start to invade the US, and because that grid's out.
Sure.
And to get $1 billion in gold, he says as well. But on the flip side, the collateral damage, it seems he just doesn't care that he's going to nuke New York, which is, and on top of that, which is, oh my God, the worst, he's going to trick Blacksmith and Morris by saying, oh yeah, put a delay on it, and it's going to blow them up as well.
Yeah, which is funny, but it's kind of like, it's, it seems like a mystery and what's going on. It's sort of in the Moon Knight arena, but a nuclear bomb that's going to destroy the entire East New York City, and which seems a little bit out of Moench's world of
although,
Moon Knight.
Mind you, Noel, it did remind me, and if we're talking about references from other runs, there was another nuclear device. There was actually a band of terrorists. I don't know if you remember it. It was a Doug Sienkiewicz run. It was in one of the Hulk magazines. I think it was, I'm going to pull out any number now, anywhere between 13 to 15,
okay.
Where, if you recall, Moon Knight stops him in the park, Mark Spector, and then he comes, it was all set up by LUNAR, and there's a second Moon Knight. Yeah, but they were carting off apparently a nuclear device to New York City as well. So... Yeah. It seems like nuclear devices are pretty popular in New York. I don't know.
It was the Cold War, and that's been, up until terrorists, I guess, found other ways to mess up New York City. Everybody was mostly worried about nuclear devices.
Yeah.
It was the age of Reagan, after all.
Yes, true. But yeah, so that was the main thread of this whole thing. And then off the side, okay, we've already mentioned, and we'll stick to it, we've mentioned almost an origin of sorts for Blacksmith. We get a nice little one-pager about him. But also on the other side, we get Stephen Mills and his son Doug.
Also found pretty weird.
Doug Menschel, yeah.
Right,
Doug Mills, and this Doug, this little fella, geez, I thought we were big Moon Knight fans. He's Moon Knight's number one fan.
I don't have a single poster, let alone one that my dad could tear off the wall.
Yeah. So what did you think of these guys?
Is that the parallel between little Dougie and the blacksmith? That they both somehow found the same store to buy Moon Knight posters?
That's right. They've got. But I was trying to figure out the significance of this second thread here. Was there any sort of parallels that you picked up with the other characters at all? I mean, aside from cynically saying about the posters with blacksmith. What was the purpose of this of Stephen Mills?
I just obviously just to have something in kind of the third act for Moon Knight to be able to protect besides the city itself, I guess.
Yeah.
To try to have kind of an emotional hook to the story. It seemed like, and there's no better than I don't even know if he's a teenage. It's hard to tell. The art kind of changes. One thing about Cowan's pencils is he has a little bit of same face for a lot of his characters, and sometimes Doug looks like a 20-something-year-old, and sometimes he looks like a 13-year-old. So it's hard to tell.
It is hard to tell because actually there's one of the instances there, Noel, where his mum just gets a phone call that her husband or his father's died. And then he just walks out of the house. Like he looked to me like a 10-year-old boy at first, and then I'm thinking, no, he's got to be a bit older than that if he can actually just hail a cab and just leave the house like that. So
I thought that for a second he hails a cab, and I was like, oh, this could be smart. It's instead of the intel that Moon Knight gets. What if he would have just followed this detective and found out that his kid was there, and his kid knew, he could have, Jake Lockley could have drove the kid into the city or whatever, but I was it's just a regular cab. That's disappointing. Okay, anyway, moving on.
So Doug was a bit of a weird one. If anything, I found that, the father was saying, look, I hate vigilantes. Your father's in the police force, part of the law. You should be respecting me over Moon Knight. In the end, though, the story shows that Stephen Mills, unfortunately, tragically, he dies. He falls through a hole, gets run over hit by a train. And Moon Knight is the one that actually solves the case. So you'd be hard-pressed if you were Doug to think, okay, well, I think vigilantes actually get stuff done. And this was addressed by Moon Knight at the end. He says something weird like, okay, well, I bend the law a little just to give it a nudge to,
Yeah.
But you can't, I don't think it works. Yeah.
No, it doesn't really work. I mean, he says he's...
The system isn't perfect by any means.
Yep, that's what it is. He was like, I don't want to dig really into it. But yeah, basically just that the system isn't perfect and I just help move it along or whatever. It's like, that doesn't seem very... That's one thing they don't ever talk a lot about is generally in Moon Knight is like his vigilantism, like, I mean, they touch on it, but they never touch on the whole problem with being a vigilante, like they rarely do in comics regardless, like, why are these people why are superheroes even a thing?
They could have easily gone for it at the beginning. Like, I was waiting for when Sharp falls to his death and you see Moon Knight just standing on top of that scaffold, on top of the building, construction site. I would have thought the crowd would have gone, Moon Knight did it. He's a vigilante. He's killed him. But Harris quickly kind of addresses that by saying in the news, I can't remember, in the news, they're saying, no.
That's not his MO. Yeah, that's what they say. And it's like, this is pre-Watchmen, I suppose, so there's a little less cynicism for that. But it's just funny. There is some of that cynicism built into Marvel Comics at the very beginning, because if something like that happened with Spider-Man while Lee and Ditko were writing, if the cops would start shooting at Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like the cops hated Spider-Man. And it's just like, oh, well, we need to get on the right side of the law here, but it's like you have to circle that square, or however you say it, like put that peg in. Like how do they even reconcile that? And like you said, a little bit. This is like his father is saying vigilantes aren't the real heroes or whatever, but then it's just quickly, oh no, yeah, but they are.
Yeah,
they are the real heroes.
I just have to wonder whether maybe Jack C. Harris had big plans for the likes of Blacksmith and Doug Mills, because I think at the end of this it opens it up for Doug to choose his path, right? I mean, this is the path. Well, these are the options that you have, Doug, which Moon Knight's saying to him, like, you can follow me and help the law out a bit like that, or you can be true to look what your dad did. He actually discovered where the device was, stuff like that, and the authorities took away Blacksmith and Morris. So, but unfortunately, I don't think, unless I should have done the research. I don't think little Dougie Mills pops up anywhere else in the Marvel universe.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure he would have loved his character to become a little sidekick or something like that, but we had a different sidekick instead, and that story was a lot better. So, yeah.
So, interesting here. So, let's just talk a little bit about the art. You said, there's a lot of a few of the figures, the faces are the same. I think you did an all right Moon Knight. What do you? Yeah, I mean, it's no.
It's in the Sienkiewicz age, so it's like, to me, it looks. And I'm a fan of kind of the House Marvel style of the '80s, but this seems to. It's some of the figure work and the art itself is fine, but I felt that a lot of the storytelling was actually kind of hard to keep up with. Like that page of a Blacksmith in jail, I had to kind of glance over it twice because I was hard time sort of keeping up. There's some really, really small panels of like when he is escaping and he kills his guy he's supposed to be escaping with, or whatever he does. It's hard to tell if he even kills him or not, but some of the storytelling seems a little muddled in that way, and there's just so many thought bubbles and so many word balloons that it's distracting from everybody. It's the age, but everybody has to have a thought. You got to hear everybody's inner thoughts.
Yeah, looking at it now as well, you're right. I mean, each of these pages are packed with panels. Like, Cowan really does pack them in there. It's quite a lot to get through, and he's got a lot of small panels. So, yeah, I thought it was okay. It's very different, immediately different from what you usually expect from Moon Knight, because we're kind of spoilt with the Sienkiewicz kind of art. So it doesn't have that tone, that visual tone, to kind of aid you in this kind of gritty world of Moon Knight.
Yeah, it's not very noir, I guess. There's a good shot. I'm looking at the floppy, so the numbers pages aren't there. I guess it would be the penultimate page when they've arrested the blacksmith and put him in jail. There's a shot where they're putting him and his cohorts into the police van, and it's just a shot behind, and the cape is just Moon Knight's ass.
Yeah,
it's just how tight Mark's ass is right there.
It
looks pretty funny. Then the next little page, it's a page of Moon Knight and Doug walking together, and it's just crotch ahoy there. So
the beauty of Moon Knight is you don't have to draw his arms. If you say, like, with his cape, he's just a flowing cape.
And an ass apparently.
I mean, the art was. I think the art was serviceable here. It was good. It no way did it leap out or anything like that. But I didn't think it. For me, it didn't detract too much from the story. So. I found if anything, I guess the inks were maybe a little flat. In I don't know if we lean towards the inkers. There are 3 inkers as opposed to the artist itself, but those establishing shots of, there's some fine shots of the architecture. So we first see the Mills home. We see. I think it's Grant Mansion. Yeah, it is Grant Mansion. With, again, I've got to call out the helicopter, the mooncopter. Again, is back to its dorky best. It's terrible.
I love it. I love it.
But I love about it is the silence, because I love this idea of him just grabbing the rope ladder and the citizens.
And it seems like he's flying away.
Yeah, how cool is that?
It is cool.
The establishing shots of the architecture, like I felt a bit flat with the colours and the inks. There were 3 shots of 3 different residences there, Knol.
Yeah, if you didn't have the caption box telling us where we were, it'd be like, what is going on? Like, there's the first shot when they go to the villain's mansion. It says, like, out in Connecticut or wherever the hell the villains want to. As I was like, oh, is that Grant Man? Oh, no, it's not Grant Manor. Okay, never mind. And, so a lot. I just find a lot of it confusing as far as storytelling goes. I don't know if this is a young artist or if it was just a rush at the time, but they're trying to just pack a lot in for a script that just could have been cut down a lot.
Yeah.
I'm bothered by some of the profile drawing too. There's like a couple of Moon Knight in costume where his rib cage is sticking out so far. And I don't know. There's just a couple kind of weird things. And like I said, everybody has same face.
Yeah. And there is this one where you're talking about profile that's towards the end. I think it's the last page of that story. And you see Moon Knight talking to Doug. And I think the angle of his head, I think Cowan still persists in putting the 2 eyes there, which make the perspective look really weird.
There's a couple things like that actually in there of Moon Knight where where the white eyes are shining through the darkness, and it looks really weird.
Yeah. But
I don't want to give anybody too hard of a time just being an artist myself. It's hard to do. I mean, he's a great artist. It's just we're here to critique the stuff, and if I'm being honest, it's like some of it. I couldn't do it. I'll tell you that. But when you're so used to somebody like Bill Sienkiewicz, his storytelling is also really, I mean, everyone gives his just line work its proper dues, but his storytelling is also really great. And it's an issue like this that really makes you appreciate how he lays out a page. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is bookended. It is hard because it is bookended by Sienkiewicz issues. So issue 15 and 17. So we're given a good 15 issues of Sienkiewicz, and then we get this, and then it's back to him. So it's hard not to compare Cowan's with the usual artist. Well, having said that, then if we go, I mean, let's just jump to the last thing the thing I want to talk about just towards the end is the fight scene, the climax. I thought it was a very unconventional one as well. There were a couple of explosions. First, Moon Knight manages to explode the fuel tank that the blacksmith is wearing on his back. Somehow
survives.
He survives it. He says he goes with the flow, and he just rode the wave, I guess, of the explosion.
Remember, kids, if you're ever in an explosion, just go with the flow, and your arms won't come flying off.
Yeah, exactly. And Moon Knight a little bit more believable somehow that he got away. But then we get the nuclear device. So this is what I mentioned in the synopsis, right? So it explodes because they dropped the detonator, but I guess it wasn't fully armed, right? Because it had to, because otherwise it would have been a nuclear disaster. So that was, I think a bit vague, because once you drop the detonator, you think, oh my god, the thing's going to go off.
You get a small panel that says "Fawam."
Yep.
With an explosion.
Yeah. So when you drop the detonator when it's not armed, apparently it still explodes as well. That's the thing. So I found that a little confusing because only for obviously for a split second. Then you kind of understand because they explain it. It's like Morris is the one who is unjustly given not enough screen panel time. I think is Morris guy, but I guess his purpose was served. I mean, he's just the guy that's meant to kind of arm the device, but they seem to go to great lengths to establish him, only for him to have such a small role.
Yeah, and I don't think they did a great job of establishing him, because it wasn't until I got to this point I had forgotten that he was even in the story. Because there's 2 pages of the bad guys hideout, and they're going through all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, and then I completely forgot about it until we got back to the nuclear device under the subway. I was like, oh right, okay, wait, what?
I think he must have been shoehorned in, because I guess Harris would have thought, look, I need to get Blacksmith over there, but he's a hired thug, so he can't arm the device. I need another character that can... Oh, okay, we'll have Blacksmith escort this guy. And
why couldn't he arm the device if he can build weapons while he's in prison? You think he would be able to at least hit the on? Yeah, he could hit the on button.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, back in these days as well, like I'm citing a few Spider-Man comics as well with these nuclear devices. Apparently, anyone can like build them, so it's not that difficult.
Apparently, some young child just built in real life just built a thermonuclear device in his bedroom. So,
bloody hell. Mm-hmm. Okay, was his name Little Dougie Mills? Okay.
No, I don't remember his name, but he really some little smart kid just built a thermonuclear device of some kind in his room.
Jeez.
Science project. The youth.
He's gonna power up an iron suit with it or something. He's gonna come zooming out. You never know.
Yeah, we might have a little Tony Stark on our hands in the real world.
Well, how about we jump to the second story then? So this was a little bit more...
Seeker of Stone, yes.
Yeah, with Jimmy James or Jimmy on pencils.
The man's so nice, they named him twice.
Yeah. Seekers of Stone... let's start off with the art then, I guess, with Jimmy James. I found this a lot more... There's a lot more meat to this art.
I like it more. I like how Mark's client looks a little bit like the Crypt Keeper from EC Comics.
Okay.
And I guess that's a good segue into say I think the art actually looks in general a little bit more like the classic sort of 70s EC horror comics.
Yeah,
which is
very
cool. So
classic.
So maybe Jimmy James worked on some of that kind of stuff. There's a profile like on the second page of the artist, whatever his name is.
Collins,
looking over at Mark, where Mark's like standing with his hip, like talking to him and stuff. I was like, that looks like the Crypt Keeper. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
And the fact that it's like, this story, I thought to myself as soon as reading it, it's like, this seems like, this isn't supposed to be like an insult to Mark Spector, but it's like what if he was a dumb James Bond? And I kind of like that element of a story because he even calls himself like a nitwit or something later. And like, I may not be the smartest guy, but I've got this figured out. And I was like, I love this story. I like way better than the main story, if I'm going to be honest with you.
It had a lot.
It's fun. Feels more like adventures. I would like. Mm-hmm. It would be cool in modern day somehow if we could get some more adventures of Mark Spector.
That's exactly what I was thinking as well.
Dumb asshole who's just trying to make money. Like, of course, the story is ridiculous. Yeah. I don't remember what year Clash of the Titans came out. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to tell you when it came out though.
But sure, I mean that was a big plot in that movie was Medusa.
Yes.
So and maybe it was in the zeitgeist at the time.
Yeah.
But it's a ridiculous story. The fact this guy's trying to get Medusa's head to, and I like how Mark just doesn't believe it, and then he still kind of doesn't believe it even after he sees it.
I love it. I think this kind of I'm going to call it supernatural or mythical mold is a nice departure from say the street stuff that we've been seeing, and exactly as you say, this whole thing is packaged as a classic comic. So the way it looks, the way Mark dresses, this escapade to get Medusa's head, it all has the hallmarks of a really old kind of tale, and I really like it. I mean, even down to the lime green turtleneck and the blue safari jacket.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. I really like, and the kind of puffy pants tucked into the boots.
Yeah, it's so kind of old school, isn't it? And I think the Jimmy James does a massive service to creating that feel that we get. I mean, even he said the Crypt Keeper. That's actually more accurate. I was looking more at like an Ebenezer Scrooge or something, but yeah, Crypt Keeper's even better. And even this creepy, is it a man called Karg? I don't know where they come up with his names, Karg or Latimer.
I don't know.
Anyway, he's got it was cool because he put on the gloves. At first I thought he was actually just putting an artifact which was protected by snakes into a box. Like that was his booby trap.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, which was it was a good mislead, I guess, because I was like, Medusa's head. What?
Yeah.
That's
and
so random.
Yeah. He kind of looks like Puppet Master. I'm not saying that he is, but he's kind of got that little vibe as well.
Well, the big glasses, I love.
The big glasses and the arched eyebrows. Yeah, so, I mean, this is a short tale, so there isn't much in development, but it goes at a cracking pace, I think.
It's like and it's a weird mix, like I said, of like a dumb James Bond and like a weird mystical, because the fact that even like the artist's daughter comes to try to save him from himself, and she's the one who, like kind of sort of saves the day, but of course, our male hero is the one at the end of the day who really does it.
Yeah, I was even having a look
it's bad James Bond trope, but
yes,
but still like in a fun way. Like she's a great character to have in this
keeping in
story.
This dated style. I mean, it's consistent, isn't it? I mean, she does come out of nowhere. She's a mystery woman for all of 2 pages because it's a short story. It's revealed that she's a daughter. I mean, the significance of that, to me, for her being a daughter, wasn't that too much of a surprise. I mean, because Collins wanted to grab this artifact. So when she turned up and she said, I'm his daughter, the first thing I was thinking of was, well, okay, so Collins is kind of, as insurance, has somehow asked his family member, a more abled person, to catch it as well. So I wasn't too kind of surprised that it revealed that she was a daughter. She doesn't even get a name as well. I had a look. She's got no name. She's just referred to as the daughter of things. So very doesn't get much look into. I mean, even looking at the last page here, if Collins says something, he doesn't mention her name. But pretty cool. Again, that trope, Knol of the mirror and Medusa. That's really the only way to defeat her, isn't it? You've just got to shine it back on her. And Mark gets done a fair bit. He claims that he's quite woozy. I think he's heavily concussed. I mean, I was surprised the daughter didn't ask.
Well, he claims he's knocked down. There's a great panel of him getting knocked right in the head with a gun.
Yeah, with all the
that was good. It's a good bit of storytelling with it, and the fact that he broke the glass to cut himself free, but then also used it to reflect
by pure accident.
I thought was pure accident. It was like fun coincidence,
Yeah. No, you're right though. I mean, and he does mention it. He does. I may be concussed. I mean, but geez, what a trooper. I mean, he's still forming
his future
sentences.
Moon Knight.
Yeah, he is future Moon. The signs of things to come. But yeah, and at the end though, so again, I wasn't too sure of how to end it in the bare bones synopsis. I wasn't even sure if they got it right. It kind of left it up in the air a bit. So they bring back the head. It's turned to stone as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah, and then
so if you're holding Medusa's head and it would turn, whatever. But anyway, it somehow turned her head to stone as well, because he was holding on to it when he was turned to stone.
Yeah, but that second last panel, it says, "I don't know, I don't want to know, I don't know what all that's referring to," and then it ends with, "and he never found out." Mark Spector never found out. He recovered from his injury and years later became someone else. Maybe the woman could have told him if he'd asked, he didn't, and so the secret is locked within her. The secret and her very private grief. And she's crying at the end. So, what happened? They brought their head to him, but what happened to Collins? Did he die?
Maybe he's just sad because he's never been able to do any more artwork?
Yeah, and which is a bit of a weird ending, isn't it? She's crying over that.
It's kind of weird just because she went there to stop him from even getting the head, just to let him not be an artist anymore. So I guess maybe she's just or just keeping her grieving going. Maybe it's just continuous. Like I had to stop my idiot father from doing something stupid with Medusa's head.
Yeah.
And we did, and now I'm just still sad because he can't make sculptures anymore or whatever. I don't know.
I just didn't buy this ending at all. Unfortunately, I think the ending let it down a little. Everything else was
There's
pretty
still
good.
another great drawing of Mark Spector's ass at the end. So
Oh, hang on, let me see if I can guess.
he's swinging off.
Ah. Oh, no, can't see it. Oh, he's swinging off. Oh, yeah, the last one. Yeah, of course. Oh, the big
Maybe
ass.
she's crying because she's going to miss Moon Knight's ass.
Who knows? And like the significance I was looking at, she picked up something from the newsstand. What is it? Maybe that has, but I can't even read anything in there. So a very kind of weird ending, but still an enjoyable one. As you say, I'd love to see more of Mark Spector tales, like pre-Moon Knight tales. It's not uncommon with characters, right? You get, I'm sure, aren't there issues of the Punisher before he became the Punisher? There are, from Garth Ennis, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'd be really good to see Moon Knight before he became Moon Knight, even his earlier, even pre-Bushman, that ill-fated journey to Egypt. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, well, they even say at the beginning of that story, he says, this is before I even met up with Bushman's army and all that stuff. So that is really cool. Yeah, and I don't know how much they were doing that with other comic characters. Like, I know that there's the Tales of the Beat Man books, but those are just like kind of one-off stories of sort of a young Bruce Wayne into his career as a superhero. But I don't know if there's ever been stories like,
I mean, I can't think of any.
Sort of him traveling the world. And I mean, I know there's like bits of, like, they've done flashbacks and stuff of him like sort of traveling the world and stuff, but having full-on stories, because that's one of the cool things about Mark Spector is he does have a few years at least of becoming a badass mercenary and then getting involved with the wrong people. Like, it'd be cool to see, they've done a couple flashbacks with him in the military, sort of mentioned his CIA stuff, but it'd be great to see more of that. Like, it would be really cool to the CIA things would be like him going on missions as a CIA officer would be pretty neat.
I'd love to see CIA stuff. But the reason why I kind of like this one as well is because it's such a departure from, him as that idea of the merc, like in Egypt, with the guns and like kind of like the Legion, a band of brothers and stuff. Over here, as you say, is very much like a James Bond, kind of just a
dumb one.
A dumb. Let's not forget a dumb one. Just stumbling his way through stuff. No, he's a little bit more, tuned in. But it was really cool. Like I said, I'd love to see more. So anyway, I don't know. Any other points there, Noel, that you might raise? I think he sounded well. Actually, that little story, he sounded pretty much like from a classic tale. I can't say that he didn't sound like Mark, but he sounded very much like the tone of the whole story.
No, I mean, that's one thing you could say about early comics is like a lot of where it's really hard to keep anybody sort of in character when they're all have thought bubbles that are sort of waxing poetic or just telling you what you're seeing. It in more modern and not too far after sort of this point, and there probably were comics before this point as well, where some characters really do have a personality. Like, I mean, I can say for the first story, Ben Grimm sounds like Ben Grimm.
Yeah, we didn't speak about Ben Grimm that much. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He sounds very much... I noted that as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like that there are some characters that were just set up so well that no matter who writes them, what the personality is going to be. And like Jack and Stan set up Ben Grimm even more than the rest of the Fantastic Four, even though Johnny's pretty much set too. But Reed and Sue have gone through kind of different variations of what, but they started off as very like, well, young lady, that kind of stuff. But Ben has always been, but I think partly is because they just basically, it's just Jack Kirby. And he's such a personality on his own that anybody, I'm sure whoever even knew of Jack knew exactly how to write Ben, you know. So that's like, even though he's only in it for no good reason at all.
No good reason at all. There's one line from it that I didn't really know what to make of it. It's one of my favorite from the issue. Ben Grimm, like Alicia says, oh no, you know, you've got to help him. Like the little boy, I don't know if you noticed, but he's the son of the guy that died, and he's actually asking for your help, Ben. Don't fob him off. And Ben says, you know, you may have bum peepers, but you see a lot better than... It's like, okay, did he just massively insult Alicia?
His blind girlfriend, who then later leaves him for his friend, but then who that turns out to be a Skrull. Spoilers. It is really funny. Yeah. But I mean, that's classic Ben Grimm, you know. Like it's like he doesn't. Yeah. That's some Yancey Street.
And actually,
straight talk from the NC Street. Yeah,
I mean, and as you say, just further on, because we missed talking about like Ben Grimm there. I think his reaction as well to Doug was a little harsh, but I think it was still true because their dynamic, the Fantastic Four, again, what I love about them is they're so different from the other heroes. They're really celebrities, like to the populace of New York. Mm-hmm. So they have to deal with the paparazzi, constant fans, and this is why Ben has that kind of knee-jerk reaction of little Dougie coming up to him and going, yeah, whatever, go away, you know. So yeah, it sounded a little harsh at first, but because we all know Ben's got one of the biggest hearts in the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. But I found that really on point with his character.
Well, that is just classic Ben. Like, there's so many stories of him slagging off his celebrity, but he does have you know, and that's just sort of a classic kind of trope for a character, not even just Ben, but it's just to be like, forget about it. But then of course he comes around because you know he will, and he's always going to help. And it's such a weird, different contrast to like, I have just reread this, and I thought I'd bust it out just in comparison, is the Marvel 2-in-1 starring The Thing and Moon Knight. And we won't get into it, but I'll just say it's also a ridiculous story, but it's the first time they meet, and it's a different writer. I can't even remember who wrote this little story. Is
that Crossfire as well?
Yeah, Crossfire's in this one. Stephen Grant is the writer of this one, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
But he nails Ben's voice exactly.
Nice.
As you would, and it's a fun story that I hope you and I can cover some day. Oh yeah,
absolutely. Well, we've got something else pinned a bit later on down the track as well. Not that far down the track. So we'll definitely be having Knol. You'll be hopefully back on, hopefully in a more amenable time. But yeah, no, I'd love to cover that as well. We'll see if we can fit it into another. I think there's another Other Side of the Moon segment coming. So Loonies, for those that don't know, Other Side of the Moon is basically Moon Knight in comics that's not typically his own series. So as Knol mentioned, that Marvel 2-in-1, or was that Team Up? I always get mixed up.
It is 2-in-1 would be the Ben Grimm ones. So yeah,
2-in-1. Yep. So that's a good one. Yeah, the Ben Grimm ones are just a lot of fun as well. I mean, I've read a couple with I'm doing a Spider-Woman read, and he's in actually a lot of. He's in her first appearance as well. He teams up with Shang-Chi of all people. Ben Grimm.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you go the Marvel 2-in-1s, it's a little hint. The floppies are a lot easier to find for really cheap because they're not quite, it's The Thing, it's not Spider-Man. So, the Marvel team-ups, you can still find those for pretty cheap too. But for some really fun one-off stories, and if you like Ben Grimm at all or the Fantastic Four, try to collect as many as the 2-in-1s you can, because every one is just like a one-off story with all the every B and D list hero. They would throw, it's the idea is throw them in with the popular hero. And the Thing was, like, people don't remember, like, the Thing was at
he was a
late
huge,
70s, just as huge as Spider-Man was at the time.
Yeah.
Like, he was the huge, for good reason, like we just said, he's a fantastic character.
Yeah, I remember one of the 2-in-1s. I think I haven't read it, but it's The Thing and I think Aquarius, of all people. Like really weird characters you wouldn't associate with. So, and we're glad because he gets to team up with Moon Knight. So, and the likes of, I know there's other ones, Quasar as well. Just really kind of people you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like really everybody in the Marvel universe, he pretty much teams. It'd be hard pressed to find a hero that he didn't team up with.
He teamed up with a lot of mutants as well. He would have. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's Okay, because the ones I've seen, like I've only seen a smattering. I've never, but I'm sure he has. I mean, they're a big part of the universe. Anyway, Noel, let's wrap this one up. This one issue. How about we go for this double story? What would you give this issue 16, Shadows of the Moon and Seekers of the Stone, out of 10?
Well, it's hard for me because it is two different stories, and I like one story so much more than the other. So maybe we can do an I'm terrible at math, so average. You have to help me out with the averages here. But I think I would give the first story maybe around like a 4.
Oh,
it just didn't.
Ouch.
It didn't. Like I said, the story seemed just kind of manic, and like the storytelling seems sort of manic and kind of out of place for the run. I mean, I only have the issue before and after to kind of compare it to, and even on its own, it would seem a little manic to me. So the art is not my jam, and the storytelling is not my jam. So it's. I would have to call it slightly disappointing. It's not terrible, but I would put it on the lower side of middle, I guess. But the other story I would put a little higher. I would say maybe a 7 or 8, maybe even. I really did love how that story. It was just fun and quick and ridiculous, but in a classic kind of adventurer way. So either, if we're going to go for Khonshu's rating, I would probably even say a big, beautiful yellow man, whatever that means.
Big, beautiful yellow man. Wow. Yeah.
But the first story, maybe I telephone Moon. But if we average those, I guess if we average those out together, it puts it right at maybe a 5.5. Is that what it would be?
If you go for
like
an 8, it would go down to it would be down a 6, a getting small Moon. A smack bang right down the middle, a 6, which is pretty good. Like so a lot of. I just
think the second story really makes up for a lot of the deficits of the first,
which is a big like a big thing to say because the second story is like a smaller story, right? A shorter one, so it packed a lot of punch. I would, let me split this up as well because it's just easier and we'll get the average. I was going to give the first one a 5.5. I think, 5, a little bit over 5 because I didn't hate it, but it did the bare minimum for me to just like to enjoy it. So a 5.5 for that one. But the other one I thought was really good. I'd give that a good 7.5. So let me just do my maths here. So 6.5. So I gave it a 6.5 out of 10 in average.
Oh, slightly higher. You liked it more than me.
So you got a 6 to 6.5. Yeah. I think we're pretty much even ground on that second story, but I think I like the first one just maybe a little bit more than you. So 6.5 there. Loonies, and I'll go for the vanilla. So let's go to right at a mid Waning gibbous for that. So there you go, listeners. That is our review of Moon Knight issue 16, Shadows of the Moon and Seekers of the Stone. Noel, a huge thank you for coming on as well. I know obviously this is not like a mass departure because we'll be seeing you again hopefully soon to do, I think we've got Pit down the track. It's a Marvel Team Up 144. It's the Spider-Man one with Moon Knight. That should be a good one as well. So again, Loonies, we have an Other Side of the Moon coming up soon, and Noel will be returning for that. But a huge thanks, Noel. It's always fun to chat.
Thank you, Ray. Your beard's looking good, by the way. Keep that Corona beard going.
Thank you. Yeah, the Rona beard. Is there anything you wanna plug or shout out to, or where can people find you if they want to chat about The Thing with you?
Yeah. Everyone, read The Thing. Read his solo series from the 80s. It's fantastic. Well, you can find me on Twitter if you just enter my name, KNOL TATE. I haven't been making any music because of the world sucking. Haven't really even seen my bandmates in several months, so no new music right now. I've just been drawing a lot. So if you want to check out my Instagram, Tate_drawings. I did a whole series of Moon Knight drawings that are on there last week. I think 5 or 6 or 7. Just, fun doodles of Moon Knight. And I guess it's Inktober on the old Instagram. So I've been hashtagging that with some things.
Nice one.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to buy any art, most of it is available if it hasn't sold. I've been selling some things, but you can just contact me in any way. Through the ITK group or Twitter or on Instagram, and we can set something up, and I'll mail you some artwork.
Was that a bit of a Ben Grimm impersonation there, was it?
Yeah, just get a cigar in my mouth. Other than that,
cool.
Nothing.
Now you've been doing some bloody awesome watercolors as well.
Yeah, I've been doing that. My partner's child has a bunch of, so I've been using little kids' watercolors to do it, to experiment, because before it was all just black and white, and thought that would be fun. I'll try doing some colors, and it's fun.
Yeah, awesome. No, nice one. So all of that will be in the show notes. Loonies, drop a line to Knol. Check out his artwork as well. I mean, Knol's music, the band Deleta, is still available, all on Bandcamp as well. So we'll put the show notes there. Go check it out. Awesome music. If you love what you hear at the beginning and the end of the show, that's just a little taste of Deleta stuff. Oh, and of course the Bare Bones dropping in those fine tunes while you hear Ray fumble his way through the Bare Bones. Anyway, no feedback in this episode because I didn't get it out there. But still, it's not too late.
We don't want to hear what you think anyway, people.
Oh.
Just kidding. Drop them in afterwards. Let us know. I'd really like to hear what people think about this weird kind of one-off in the Moon Knight Volume 1.
Yeah, let's get some discussions happening with this issue. It's an interesting one. Even the first or the second story, not too fussed. They're both worth discussing. Finally, next phase, episode 168. Look, I've just been reminded, of course, the Avengers issue 37 comes out on Wednesday, so I will be looking at some sort of reaction video. I'll reaction episode. I'll post up something in the group and the page. If you drop in your thoughts, I'll read it out, and let's see what everyone thinks about the wrap up to this arc. Also, what originally I had was, and I might still get this happening. It is a waxing Crescent for next week, and it is a LUNAR-PICK again, but a modern run review. And we'll be continuing our coverage of Moon Knight, the Brian Michael Bendis Moon Knight Volume 6, Issue 8. And I'll be having the power of Chad with me for that one.
Ooh,
so that should be
that'll be great.
Yeah.
I gotta say, after rereading that stuff and going through it, you guys going through it, I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, is it?
I think Alex Maleev's art is so fantastic that I can just look at that, and the story is, it's a good story.
The story's fine. I think if you read it as a like a trade, like a one thing, because I can only imagine what it would be like if you had to wait a month. The way that it is, it's just so kind of stop-start. But as a whole, it actually worked really well. You just forget. I think people's biggest bitches is his new personalities, really. And if you kind of forget about that, it's kind of a great story. Yeah.
My 2 cents.
Yeah, it has a lot of merit. I'll be with you there, Knol, as well. So finally, as well, on Patreon again at the top of the show, if you consider joining our Patreon page, just check it out for some bonuses. It's all good. Patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight. And as mentioned at the top, sponsored by Hello Headphones. If you use the code ITK Moon Knight, you get 10% off their store. And for Dreamland Comics, if you use the code MOON, you'll get 20% off their online store as well. So please consider that. Great incentives, and a big thank you to those to Hello Headphones and Dream Comics for sponsoring the show. We're an affiliate member to Entertainment Earth. So, Noel, you and I now both are proud owners of the Walgreens Moon Knight action figure.
We are.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with that. Yeah, so we're going to have to do a review or something down the track. But if you haven't and you want to try and get it still, check out Entertainment Earth. We have a link in our show notes, and any purchase will help prop up the show as well. Finally, we are part of The Collective, a band of really cool podcasts. Go check them out. There's a directory, again, in the show notes. So great episodes or great shows like Atalan Rising, a comic book podcast, or the likes of The Collected Edition by Paul Matthew Carr. And I'll shout out another one, Resurrections, Thanos and Adam Warlock podcast. So plenty of character-based podcasts, as well as pop culture-based. Finally, you can email us at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord. It's all in the show notes. I'm not going to bore you with that. And finally, if you want to rate us, please consider on Apple Podcasts and Podchaser. That will help us get out to more loonies. So, Noel, it's the start of the day for you. What's planned ahead after reading such a stellar issue?
Maybe a nap.
A nap, yes. You can nap after all that coffee? Oh.
In a couple hours, it will wear off.
Oh, yeah. Nice one. No, always good again, Noel, catch up with you. And
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see you again very soon. And as always, loonies may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Goodbye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.